Hello and welcome to Fixed, the podcast by the Fix Media, where we unpack media insights and take you behind the scenes of editorial decisions, strategy, and innovation. I'm your host Anton Protsiuk, senior editor of the Fix Media. Before we dive in, please subscribe, follow, and if you like what you hear, support us at thefix.media. Zetland is one of these media outlets that we at The Fix have covered most over the years because it's one of the most successful reader-funded digital publishers in Europe. They achieved success in their home market in Denmark, and in the past 2 years they have diversified their business and started expanding in other markets. Most recently, they had a successful launch in Norway with their sibling publication Demo, meeting its launch goal of 5,000 new members. So I'm happy to be joined by Jakob Moll, Zetland's co-founder and international director, to discuss Zetland's launch in Norway and its wider plans to conquer Europe. Jakob, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Jakob, so let's start with you personally. Can you tell me a bit more about the international director position, what it means, and what it is that you do at Zetland?
Yes, of course, and I think I'll have to turn the time back a little bit. As you said, I'm one of the co-founders of Zetland, and Zetland was originally started as a company by four journalists, which is sort of a terrible, actually, team setup to build a business. And the joke was that back then I was the only one that could do math, so it had to be me that became CEO. And I had that role for actually a lot of years until 2020, where I stepped down, spent a period in the US, and came back to work after a bit of sort of preparations, mostly with this internationalization strategy, which was like for a long time had sort of become my big dream, honestly, to see if what we had um, made work in Denmark, if that was useful in other places.
And can you walk me through this strategy overall? Like, what's your approach to new markets?
So a foundational idea for us was that we are not working to solve the challenges of journalism in Denmark. We are working to solve challenges for the news industry as a generally as a whole, and those challenges are the same in most countries. They have to do with trust. They have to do with relevance in the younger audiences. They have to do with information overload and the love-hate relationship we have with our phones, and in some countries with sort of fraying systems of trust and trust in institutions and politics and everything. So that is one of the foundational ideas, that these challenges having to do with media and attention are sort of in some sense universal, at least in sort of functioning democracies. Um, we also have a philosophy that countries are different, which is also true. In that journalism is a cultural product. It exists in a cultural context and in a moment in time and within a society with specific challenges, which is why we do not think of the work that I'm in charge of as franchising. So, sort of just like cloning ourselves in a different place and hiring some people to do exactly what we do in Denmark. We never thought that what was going to be the right path. So even though we bring resources and technology when we open in a new place like Norway or Finland, we genuinely put the project in the hands of what we call co-founders, the local team. We don't ask them to put up a lot of money. Luckily, we've had enough success that we can fund these attempts, but we do ask them to take a big risk and in that they typically will leave the jobs they had before and to sort of put themselves on the line to try to succeed with this new thing. Um, I think those are the sort of the foundational things, and then we have developed, let's say, a strategy for how to get attention, because in entrepreneurship, the biggest challenge in general is what you call the go-to-market strategy at business schools, and that is very, very difficult in the attention environment right now. And throughout the years, I think we have sort of found some solutions, including some very original ones. for how to come out of nowhere and actually become noticed, and to create maybe even a bit of excitement in a new place.
That's really interesting. So let's keep on with this idea of how do you get attention in a new market. You've launched in Finland, you launched in Norway. What's your approach to generating attention in a new country?
One of the things we pursue is, let's say, the opposite of the old time. Let's launch a new publisher marketing based strategy, because even if it was possible, it would be insanely expensive in a place like Norway or Germany or Finland or wherever. So instead of sort of coming out of nowhere with this big new shiny thing, we actually begin sort of slowly and bottom up. So in both Norway and Finland, we reached out to smart, thoughtful people existing in the public sphere, and asked for their thoughts and ideas and help and guidance in trying to figure out what it was that Norway, in this case, needed. Later on, we went from having these, like building this network of people that could inform our decisions, and sort of open that up to the general public in Norway, and basically made an invitation that said, if you would like to see a different direction for journalism, but also for, say, for democratic discourse in Norway, then come help us, and we promise that we will listen to you. And meaning that say fast forward a bunch of months, we have been able to build rather large communities of many thousands of people throughout, say in this case Norway, that were invested, not only ready to invest, say, financially and sort of helping us get off the ground and the crowdfunding that this culminates in, but also emotionally invested. And I think one of the big challenges for the news industry is that we are used to building these very casual relationships. Come to my website, read my headline, see my ad type, user journey. And to make people pay for something like journalism in a world where there is too much information everywhere, we need we need something that's much more deep, and that takes time and trust and a two-way relationship, which is why we emphasize the whole aspect where we listen to people and genuinely ask for their guidance on what they need and want. Um, and then on top of this sort of community of all real relationships, then we build like a lot of, say, straight up um, social media marketing. We try to be very, you know professional in how we tell stories across platforms, and we even did print advertising in local newspapers in Norway. So again, we're not afraid of marketing, but we believe that it begins with these deeper questions of how to be relevant and how to bring meaning. And then, so maybe I forgot to say that first is like, and then it ends with a crowdfunding campaign. And those are, say, for real, because we only believe that um, doing something as crazy as launching a news publisher in 2026 that sort of has no ads and is very idealistic, that should only be done if there is a lot of people out there that really want it to happen.
So let's talk more about the specific case of Norway. You've already met your goal of 5,000 paid members at the launch, right? Can you talk a bit more about the idea of demo and maybe some of the specific numbers that you've both already achieved and that you maybe plan to achieve for the publication to be sustainable in the future?
Yes, and some people have the misunderstanding that getting 5,000 members in Finland or Norway means that we are a sustainable business, but that is not the case, because we've always thought that you had to really create value and have very high quality to even like to have any kind of relevance in the sort of media world today, where you can get wonderful things on YouTube until you die, essentially, right? Like there is a lot of good stuff out there, including on a place like YouTube. So we want to build, maybe not a full team initially, but like we think the teams need to be rather large. And of course, doing journalism entrepreneurship, the biggest the biggest cost in digital journalism are the journalists themselves. So we think in Finland now we have a team of around 25 people, and breaking even in Finland meant that we needed more than 20,000 members as things turned out. And the numbers won't be exactly the same in Norway. Again, countries are different, but it maybe that we will be shooting for a number in that, like for reaching members a membership in that size. So, and also I think a team that will probably grow within the next year to maybe a size like that. Um, Again, to be able to build that quality. So that's one number we're looking at. Um, Now that the crowdfunding campaign is over, it's still possible to sign up to become a founding member in Norway, and we hope to keep growing, um, including when we start to sort of publicize who will be on the team, and when the launch date draws nearer. We hope to be several thousand more members, but that will still means that we there is a pretty there is quite a ways to go to get to say 20,000. But we are a patient company, I think, when doing these things. Now we know that there is a community out there ready to engage with us. So if it takes it will take time, and we're willing to let it take time as long as we're moving forward in a place like Norway.
Like in the episode, sounds like we're a great match, and we couldn't be happier. If you'd like to strengthen our bond, support us by donating or joining our membership program. That's it. No more interruptions. Back to the episode.
And can you talk a bit more about how these deals are structured, and how these outlets in other countries you're launching are structured? What's the role and place of Zetland versus local partners on the ground?
So I can I can be concrete in that one of the tools we have is what I call a boundaries document, which describes what does it mean to, let's say, join our family. And I think the family is a good metaphor for the relationship between our media, and that's basically very much a document about values. So for sort of for us to help launch something new, they need to like want to create some of the change in the world that we think is important, having to do with attention and having to do with thoughtfulness, and um, again, this membership idea of actually listening to people, and those theories about what, like how do we gain trust as journalists. So all the founders that we put together across countries will should subscribe to some of these ideals and values. And then there is a platform that is good at specific things. Like it's very good at our app is very good for audio, to be honest. And we are sort of adding some video to it, but publishing in text and audio has been a core thing of Zetland's product throughout the years, as the Fix has also focused on several times. So those are the boundaries. And then there is a lot of freedom, not only editorial, but also, say, sort of strategic, and where to focus and how to sort of set up this product. This also has to do with tone of voice, for instance. um, in Finland, which is of course a country that we know better by now, there is a more, let's say, it is a it's a cliche that Finns are more introvert than Danes, and especially, let's say, Europeans further south. And I think that is for them to be credible and trustworthy. I think they need to find their own tone of voice. We only say that we believe truly that to be credible, you have to sound like a human being and be yourself to some extent, because we trust people and not institutions today. But what that means in the context of, in this case, Norway, that's up to you to find out. And also, like, what are the challenges to Norwegian society that needs more journalistic um, focus or depth or nuance? Like, that's totally up to them. And again, the within the technology we have, the product can look in different ways. Like, we both have right now standalone articles in Denmark and Finland, but we're actually moving towards more serialized content than fixed formats, where you, say, have a something that has a like slightly more recognizable feel, like more like a show almost, possibly even on a specific weekday. And that we're pursuing that path in Denmark and think it's a great idea. But it will be up to the local team of co-founders to figure out together with the members, crucially, what is it that's needed right now in Norway in this case. And so again, I think things overlap. Like we are have always been big on how technology and society intersects. I think that's a storage story right now that will hopefully be like I expect it will turn out to seem very important to the team at Demo. Um, we have always focused a lot on climate and sustainability journalism in Denmark, and probably there is something there, but maybe they want to focus more on the biodiversity aspect. Like, who knows? So we help them get off the ground. That's what my work is, and then the relationship changes in that when they're off the ground and they have, say, the luxury of the long term view, then we withdraw more. So if you look at the Finnish team, we are close with them, we're friends with them, but we don't have, say, strategic or tactical talks with them every week or even every month. We just like touch base every few weeks. So that was a long-winded way of saying that they are in fact very independent once they're ready to to do the work, and after we've told them like at least what mistakes to avoid that we have already made.
So you provide the technical platform, you provide the overall framework of value, so to speak. You provide your expertise, and then you provide much of the funding, as I understand, and then the local team is in charge of doing the actual journalism on the ground, so to speak.
Exactly, and we provide all of the funding. To be honest, of course, there will be public support in the Nordic countries. We are happy to apply for foundation money if that's there. But otherwise, we are funding the car and we help build it, and then it's up to them to find out how and where to drive it.
Right. So you've referenced Finland a few times. I wanted to ask you a bit more about how things are going in Finland. Can you can you talk a bit more about what stage the Finnish publication is at right now, and how your collaboration looks right now?
I can, and we are having this conversation a day before a very important moment, because the next 2 days, for the first time, all the teams will be meeting in Denmark for the first time. And I'm saying that because the Finnish team today at Uusi Juttu is we consider them, I don't know if equal is the word, right? But like when you're small as siblings, there's this like huge difference between being 7 and 11, and the older sister gets to decide what plays on the television. And now like Uusi Juttu is in a very mature place and has gotten there with incredible speed, and we are already learning a lot from how they're succeeding in Finland, as like Zetland in Copenhagen. Also because like we've existed for 10 years in a few like next months, and so we are also like getting set in our ways and have bad habits and tried things that failed, and then we never went back to them. So we're meeting in Denmark tomorrow to sort of, because we have this very weirdly equal relationship at this point. And the reason we have that is that there is no way around it. Uusi Juttu has been sort of tremendously successful, much faster than we could have ever hoped. And that began with the crowdfunding campaign, where they had also, as I think if anybody heard a story about Uusi Juttu in European journalism, it was probably that crowdfunding campaign was an instantaneous success. And then they have kept growing, meaning that they reached break even in less than a year, even with this quite ambitious size of the team that they have in Helsinki. One of the things we got to experience with Norway was that it took more hard work to succeed with the campaign. And as I told the team in Copenhagen yesterday, actually, was it is a kind of a dangerous benchmark that we established in Finland, where it's like every no matter what they did, it was like it was an immediate success in some ways. Like they've had plenty of challenges, but overall, it's been from the beginning of the crowdfunding campaign, it would just seemed like everything was succeeding, and that is not how things typically work in media entrepreneurship. It's typically hard work from the beginning, especially in the beginning. And that was more what the process was in Norway. But yeah, so Uusi Juttu is right now they're in the process of, I would say, finding ways to refine and develop their uh, the journalistic product, especially on the audio side. Um, and then just moving towards better and more ambitious journalism. And they have gotten so far in the year that they have published already.
How do you approach choosing countries where you launched? So Finland, Norway. Are there any specific factors that guide your choices?
There are specific factors, and some are more, let's say, ephemeral, and some other are very concrete. So in Finland, it was basically an analysis about the media landscape, and a fact about journalism in Finland was that there was actually sort of not a lot of competition, and not a lot of dynamism when we looked at Finland. Um, the national newspaper in Finland, which is great, the Helsingin Sanoma, is the most dominant newspaper of any country in Europe relative to its size. So and that gives a lot of resources to an organization, but it sort of also creates a lack of pressure to innovate relative to the other Nordic countries. So that was why we chose Finland, in combination with the talks I started to have with smart people that that both believed in the idea, and some of them were even willing to say consider joining or becoming part of the team. So it's a sort of it's based on a very very thorough analysis of the market, which is about numbers, but actually most about researching. And for me, it's like I am more of an entrepreneur today, but I my background is in journalism, including investigative journalism, and I actually think it's a wonderful background for doing this type of work, because you talk to people and you find things out. That's what we do. Um, so there is the research part, and then the other is like, can we build a team that we believe in? Are there talented people out there that are frustrated? Is actually the word I use. That we need to have like some of the best people that are maybe young-ish, but really really talented and full of ideas. Some of those people need to be a little bit frustrated for us to have a chance, and that was definitely the case in Finland, and to some extent in Norway, where we had a harder time, I have to say, convincing people to take a risk, and it's definitely the case in Germany, which is the next country we are looking at.
Yes, and can you tell us a bit more about the state of your Germany project?
Yes, so we have the first few co-founders um, on the team. They haven't started working, all of them, and that group will grow. I think that is the most interesting work we have going on in Germany right now, and with the first co-founder, things changes a lot, because then then I um, his name is Moritz, and we work closely together to find out how, like, what does the perfect team look like in Germany. And once you start having people working full time, then let's say that the train sort of leaves the platform. Then we have to move forward. Um, and so that's the big aspect right now, is sort of what team do we need to build? Probably maybe a slightly bigger team because of the size of the German market, and both also sort of geographically, but also as a challenge for us. It's obviously a new thing, and as a part of that challenge is how to approach that Germany does not have a sort of a center the way smaller countries have. Like, it's obvious in Finland and Denmark to locate ourselves in Copenhagen and Helsinki. But in Germany, if we want to be a national publications, we need to figure out how to reach and be in contact with, and maybe even sort of be partly based in different parts of Germany. And I can't say we have it figured out, but it's something that we're really thinking about, and trying to find solutions for. And that is I think that's why Germany is feels like a big thing for us, because it is a big step to leave the Nordics. There is a misconception, I think, sometimes that in the Nordics, like, everybody will just pay for journalism if you throw a newspaper at them or something, and I think that's not the case. But for us to prove that to the world, we need to prove that we can make something happen outside the Nordics.
So in Germany, you are in the process of figuring out how the publication will look like, hiring the team. Do you have any estimate on when you will be able to launch?
No, but not in terms of months. But I think the future of a possible publication in a publisher in Germany will be sort of will we'll find that out within the next 12 months. So again, it's taking one step at a time, and also, again, can we build these communities of people that finds the project important and wants to support us? Then that's necessary for taking the next steps. But the campaigning phase will be up and running, and possibly completed within the next 12 months.
And do you have a sort of personal list of countries where you would love uh, to launch later after you figure out Germany?
Oh yes, there are. Uh, I think the fun part about this sort of more long term work is that every time I meet somebody I have an interesting conversation with somebody from a European country or even outside Europe, it's obviously on my mind to find out, like, what can I learn about a new market, and can this person maybe help me connect with even more interesting people later on. I think we've mentioned that I think that Poland is obviously a large market, with a lot of stuff going on. Again, we try to be very humble. We know there is great media entrepreneurship going on in Poland, but there are also challenges. I know there are a lot of young journalists, very talented journalists in Poland that do not have the opportunities that they should have. So that's something that we're pursuing, and please reach out if you're listening to this, and have thoughts on the Polish market. Then beyond Germany, there's also Sweden, obviously, as we've sort of encircled Sweden, and it is a larger country, which is interesting, larger than, again, Denmark, Norway, and Finland. And then beyond those things, there are places like the Czech Republic and France, and even Canada, I think, is very interesting. Yeah, the world is large, and I think as long as we can keep making these things happen, I don't see an end to where this can go, because, as I started with saying, I think the challenges we're working with are essentially the same across markets, and maybe we can be useful many places, and that's my dream scenario, obviously.
Interesting that you are thinking potentially about non-European markets as well, right? So you're not necessarily limited by Europe.
No, I think we actually had a serious discussion with um, a, a contact in New Zealand at one point, that was seemed like it might be going somewhere. um, the practical challenges of launching something is literally on the opposite side of the planet, is would be I wouldn't even be able to figure out how to do it. But it's been on our mind. And I think, and one question that I sometimes get from people in the industry is like, what about the US? And I think at least my approach is that I think it's one of the most difficult, and one of the last places I would even consider um, taking a risk with something like this, because it is so strange and huge, and difficult. And I think we've looked way too much to the US as European media for many years. I think the most interesting work happening in media entrepreneurship these years is happening in Europe. Um, and so that I think that's one place we're not looking. And then I think we are sort of our model works in solid democracies. Like if you are um, if you struggle with the freedom of the press in sort of a serious way, where it's, for instance, it might be difficult to become a sort of member publicly of like that supporting journalism, I think those places, I think other models are, I think it's hugely important, but I think other models are maybe stronger, moving into those places and helping good things happen. But apart from that, I think and there are a lot of places I actually think we could contribute.
As we start to wrap up this conversation, I have two big questions I still wanted to ask you. And the first one is about what role technology and new tech advancements play in your international expansion. So, is, for example, AI helping you expand more quickly and more efficiently? Are there any other tech trends that you either help or, for that matter, not help you?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I tend to, we never call ourselves a long form publication, because I don't think it is a positive word at all. Like, who wants something to be long? That's not a quality. But I am sorry, I tend to give long answers because I think this stuff is so interesting. So I'll try to limit myself, because I think you're asking some very interesting things. Obviously, there is something within media where the way younger people consume, especially video, is just like something we have to understand and factor in. We do not publish as in video as like a core format, but we invest immensely in video as a way of sort of reaching people, engaging them, exciting them. So that's the trend. Of course, everybody is looking at, obviously. Um, so I think I would say a few things about. The first is that um, we feel that the work Zetland and our sort of siblings throughout Europe, other sort of human first membership run ad free publishers, I think we are very well positioned because of the what will happen in journalism the next 2 to 5 to 10 years, where I think we underestimate um, what you know how much information there will be, and how difficult it will be to distinguish one thing from the next, from the third. Um, so the fact that we center this idea of trust between humans, and we are very very clear about our what drives us as people. Like, one thing, AI can never have an intention. So an AI can never be passionate about anything, or passionate about a question or about a value. So by centering those things, I think we are well positioned to contribute as these like threats play out to quote unquote the sort of performed objective journalism that AI copies really really well. Um, and that also, with that, I'm also saying that I would be surprised if we ever have, say, an automated voice. And that's not a question of, say, user experience, like what is the quality of a voice in German or French or Norwegian. It is simply a question of journalism as something that happens between human beings. That said, uh, as the way that we work, I think we're actually pretty great at using AI to our advantage. And for me personally, I can say, without AI, helping launch a publisher of news in Finland would have been super difficult for me, because if there's one thing people know about Finland, is that they have a super strange language. And we have been able to work closely with them, like across languages. So, for instance, we have a Slack channel in Denmark, and they have one going the other way, where sort of their daily headlines are translated and published, so we can sort of follow along and what stuff we're doing, just as a very very small thing. So we are using, including in investigative journalism, research and analysis, and as tools. We think it's crucial to lean into how we as small publishers can achieve more with AI. And so yeah, and as sort of as an onlooker, I think we tend to underestimate um, what it will do to our business models. To be honest, with AI, including everything that has to do with ads, I think there will be AI will find much better ways of connecting us with products we want than both Google search, but also ads next to an article about the Olympics. Um, and if I like one of the I think one of the big critiques we have of the traditional news industry at Zetland is this idea with volume. Um, and I think one thing AI will do to journalism is it's going to increase the volume, but we did it first to ourselves. Before there was AI slop, there was let's call it breaking news slop, or political journalism slop, right? And so hopefully we can help a little bit with helping find paths away from that situation, because if we stay there, then I think AI is really going to hit us hard.
There are a lot of interesting threads here, but I think one of the most interesting ones is the impact of AI on language, the impact of AI on translation and helping overcome this language barrier, because one of the biggest challenges for expansion within Europe has always been that Europe is so multilingual, right? And you're launching in new countries with their own established languages, so to speak, and you're saying that AI is helping you, if not translate your core journalism, then at least communicate across the different teams that work in different countries, right?
Yes, I think that's a super interesting question, because theoretically, yes, you could right now you could take Zetland's Danish product and basically make it work decently or like reasonably well in any language. And in the big languages, you maybe even wouldn't even be able to tell that it was not, say, a real journalist narrating the story. But our philosophy is is more tied to, let's say, the deeper meaning. Like, we're terrible hippies and idealists at Zetland, so that should be taken into account. But we do believe that the journalism plays out within a democratic and cultural sphere where language is not just transfer of information. It is a sort of something that plays out between human beings in a more deep and meaningful way. And so yes, we can inspire each other, and we can use AI to help move stories around and to help collaborate on stories and all of those things. But rather than using AI to just um, create information in new packaging, we think it needs to be used to sort of help this human aspect of the work to sort of expanding and make it easier. Um, that is that is both an analysis. It's also a belief. We want to live in a world where um, humans um, trust each other, if that makes sense. And we think journalism plays a huge role in that. And by doing that, we need to sort of inject the human into the journalism as a step one. Um, that said, I also think that there are going to be wonderful AI driven products, maybe especially in the area between journalism and education, where I can get information that's actually sort of super tailored to me, right? Sometimes there are things I know a lot about, um, unfortunately, including American politics, for instance. So if AI could sort of help, um, both find and package information that would totally sort of fit where I am and what I want to know and what I know already, then that could be beautiful as well. So there are so many doors that are open, and we always say that we try to fit it to solve some specific problems that we find important. But luckily, there are people out there trying to solve some of the other problems as well.
I feel like we could do a whole separate conversation about AI, but let's move to the final segments, some advice corner, so to speak, for other independent publishers in Europe who are thinking about expanding beyond their home market. Would you give any would you give any advice for them to consider?
I think I'm somewhat predictable. I think my colleagues would say the same. That I think listening is becomes incredibly important, and I think it's something we have been pretty bad at as an industry. So and it is something we can learn from like from the not very popular these days technology industry, that like having the humility to go out and interact really really deeply with open questions to the people that we want to serve. And here I'm talking very much about, let's say, the paid models that are going to be super important in the future. So don't ask the fix that question, don't ask me, you know go out and sort of engage deeply with people that know more, or the people that you're trying to reach, um, and and build from there. And um, and then I have some general thoughts on business model, for instance. Again, I think we, looking at the US for many years, we have sort of been misled a little bit by this idea of achieving great scale and funding it with ads. And a lot of people have asked me and Zetland throughout the years about like how to pursue a membership model. And um, and I think one way to think about membership is to say, okay, if we're asking people to pay for what we do, we need to think about deep relationships rather than casual relationships. So I think that is one advice in general when thinking about business models, is that even if you're doing something that's general interest, as Zetland does in across countries, you need to find out exactly why you want to exist in the lives of people, and then start building over time deep relationships with them. And then I would say one learning, hopefully, from our work is that is, it's not only possible, but it can actually lead very interesting
It's
places.
been really interesting. Thank you for joining us, Jakob, and good luck with your global expansion.
And thank you so much for to you and all the whole team at the Fix. I think you are showing the way of also, let's say, looking a little bit away from the US and creating a conversation in Europe. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that.
That's our mission. Thank you. That's all for today. Thank you for being with us. Follow the Fix, subscribe to Fixit, and if you want to help us grow, then head over to thefix.media and become a member.